Under the scorching sun of the African savanna, color is not just an appearance. It is identity, it is survival. Amidst the patches of dry grass burned to a deep yellow, a pride of lions rests in perfect harmony with their surroundings. But at the edge of that shade, completely separate from the rest, exists a strange presence. That is Keto. Keto is not like any other member of the pride. He was born with a rare mistake of nature, albinism. His entire body is covered in fur as white as snow, a stark contrast to the earthy tones of his homeland, and his eyes are a pale pink, always squinting in pain against the blinding sunlight. While other lion cubs of the same age play together in the thickets, Keto sits quietly alone. For the pride, Keto is not a member. He is a bad omen. That white coat is like a lighthouse attracting every predator, threatening the safety of the entire group. The lionesses, who are mothers ready to sacrifice their lives to protect their young, now look at Keto with cold and wary eyes. Every time Keto tries to move closer to find warmth, they bare their teeth and growl, driving him away from the pride. The poor cub can only retreat, his legs trembling as he emits small, lost cries for help in the vast space. Keto is rejected by his own blood, becoming a lonely ghost in the very place he was born. Time on the savannah is not measured in days, but in acts of survival. For Keto, every passing hour is a battle against cold indifference. The white lion cub grows increasingly thin, his ribs visible under fur dimmed by dust. His cries are no longer strong demands for food, but weak, hoarse moans. The scientists at the reserve, led by Dr. Weber, observed through their lenses with infinite sadness. They called Keto conditioned solitude collapse. A lion is the most intensely social animal. When rejected by the pride, their hearts will break before their bodies fail from hunger. Every effort to introduce Keto to other lionesses in the reserve failed miserably. Their instinct was too strong. They saw the white color and felt only danger. Keto stood there in the partitioned room, his pale pink eyes looking through the glass as if asking, "What did I do wrong?" He began to show signs of psychological panic, repeatedly clawing at the walls until they bled or curling up in a dark corner, refusing to eat or drink. Dr. Weber understood that, without a miracle, Keto would die of depression in less than a week. It was at this moment that the name Aisha was mentioned in an emergency meeting. Aisha was no ordinary lion. He was a massive mass of muscle covered in scars, currently living in a special isolation area. Years ago, Aisha was a king who ruled a vast territory with majesty and courage. But the laws of nature are cruel. An alliance of young, aggressive male lions attacked his pride. That battle did not just take Aisha throne and freedom, but also everything he loved most. He had to witness his own children being killed by the victors, a pain that no roar could ever express. Since that day, Aisha became one who lived outside the rules. He was isolated because his personality became sullen and distant. He no longer fought, no longer roared to assert power. He just sat there in the corner of his enclosure, his eyes cloudy with age and pain, always looking toward the distant horizon. The long scars running down his nose and his half-torn ear were evidence of a heroic but tragic past. Dr. Weber bet everything on a bold hypothesis. Could one who lost all his children like Aisha and a child abandoned by the whole world like Keto find each other? This idea met with fierce opposition because the instinct of a male lion is to destroy cubs that are not of his blood. But looking at the dying Keto, they knew this was the last chance. They decided to move Keto cage right next to Aisha area. Two broken souls, one old and one young, one gray with scars and one white from a genetic error, saw each other for the first time through cold iron bars. It was not just an encounter between two animals. It was a meeting between the two loneliest entities on the planet. The first days when Keto and Aisha were placed side by side were a suffocating challenge for the team of experts. Between them was a solid steel mesh, but there seemed to be an invisible wall even thicker, the wall of fear and past pain. In the first 48 hours, Aisha completely ignored the presence of the small white creature in the next compartment. He remained sitting there, his back turned to Keto, like a gray and cold stone statue. On the other side, Keto was too weak to make any noise. He just lay flat on the ground, his pale pink eyes staring at the massive mane of Aisha, longing for a warmth he had never known. By the third day, a miracle happened. Keto, in a final effort to find life, tried to crawl to the fence. He let out a hoarse cry, a trembling sound like the cry of a human child. At that moment, the tattered ears of Aisha flicked. The old king slowly stood up, his rippling muscles moving under scarred skin. He approached the iron mesh. The conservation staff held their breath, their hands ready on high-pressure water hoses to intervene if Aisha showed aggression. But Aisha did not roar. He lowered his massive head to the level of Keto. Instead of baring his teeth, Aisha used his dark nose to sniff the scent of a lion cub. Perhaps in that moment, his sense of smell recognized what the naked eye could not. Keto was not a stranger. Keto was a soul dying for lack of love, exactly how the soul of Aisha had withered for many years. Aisha softly made a prussian sound, a gentle snorting sound that lions only use to greet family. That was the moment the killer instinct of an alpha male lion completely vanished, giving way to the empathy of a father who had once lost his children. The day to open the barrier arrived. When the iron gate slowly rose, Keto tremblingly stepped into the territory of the giant. The white lion cub looked so small and fragile before the claws of Aisha. Aisha stood still like a mountain. Then, to the amazement of everyone, the defeated king knelt on his front legs, lowering himself as much as possible so as not to scare Keto. He used his tongue, rough as sandpaper, to gently lick the top of Keto's head and pink ears. It was not just an act of grooming. It was a ritual of adoption. Keto, feeling the warm current of love, did not hesitate to burrow deep into the thick, gray mane of Aisha. He nuzzled into his neck, seeking the protection that the whole world had refused to give. Aisha growled low in his throat, a deep sound like distant thunder, but one that brought a sense of absolute safety. In that moment, Keto was no longer a ghost, and Aisha was no longer a ruin. They had found each other amidst the fragments of life, together creating a new family from their shared wounds. Under the protection of Aisha, Keto began a spectacular transformation. No longer a shy and gasping cub, Keto grew every day thanks to the meals where Aisha always gave him the best parts and the absolute protection from his giant father. However, the education from Aisha did not stop at nurturing. He taught Keto how to become a true warrior, even when carrying the disadvantage of a white coat. Aisha, with the experience of a king who once ruled thousands of acres, understood that Keto could not hunt in the usual way. He taught him how to take advantage of the shadows of moonlit nights, where the white fur of Keto blended into the moonlight like a mist, turning him into an invisible predator. He taught him how to patiently hide in the tall grass that had been scorched white by the sun, where his color was no longer a weakness, but a perfect camouflage. The lessons from Aisha were not just survival skills, but lessons in self-respect. Do not try to fit into the world by changing yourself. Make the world adapt to your difference. The biggest change occurred when Keto entered his teenage years and began to grow a magnificent white mane. One day, a group of young lions from Keto old pride, those who had once driven him away, approached the partition with the intent to provoke. They growled and bared their teeth through the fence, trying to intimidate the different lion. But they were mistaken. Aisha, though his steps were somewhat slow due to age and old wounds, still stepped forward. He stood in front of Keto, mane bristling, eyes burning with the authority of a legend. He let out a roar so powerful it shook the nearby acacia trees. That roar did not just carry physical strength, but a stern message. This child has my protection. The young lions, no matter how aggressive, trembled before the bravery of the old king and the extraordinary calm of the white lion standing behind him. Gradually, the stigma and the pride began to fade. They saw Keto no longer as a bad omen, but as a strong survivor, a testament to the power of perseverance. The lionesses who once abandoned Keto now observed him with respect. Thanks to the sponsorship of Aisha, Keto won his ticket back to the community. The pride began to allow Keto and Aisha to join in collective activities. A new order was established, a pride led by an old scarred king and a powerful white prince. Aisha had not only saved Keto's life, he had saved the status and dignity of a creature that nature had essentially sentenced to death. Time is the only enemy that even the greatest kings cannot defeat. Many years passed, and Aisha became a truly old man in the lion world. His steps were now heavy, his eyes grew cloudy, and the roar that once shook the savannah was now just heavy breaths. In contrast, Keto had become a powerful adult male lion with a brilliant white mane under the sun. But even though he was strong enough to rule on his own, Keto never left the side of his father, even by one step. On a sunset afternoon that dyed the horizon red, Aisha slowly laid down under an old baobab tree, where he often sat to watch Keto practice. He tiredly rested his head on his scarred front legs. Keto approached, gently licking the torn ears of Aisha, just as the old lion had done for him many years before. In his final breath, Aisha groaned softly, a peaceful sound as if he had completed the final mission of his life. The old king closed his eyes, taking his last breath in the arms of the son he chose to love. The grief of Keto did not erupt into violent roars. He lay down beside the body of Aisha, curling his white body around his late father. For 2 long days and nights, Keto did not eat, did not drink, and did not leave even an inch. He guarded the eternal sleep of Aisha, while vultures began to circle above. It was a tragic and haunting image, a white king performing the final farewell ritual for the man who gave him a whole life. On the 3rd day, Keto slowly stood up, looked up at the night sky, and let out a long, painful, but proud roar. It was a declaration to the savannah that Aisha is gone, but his spirit will live on. Keto took over the position of Aisha, but not in the way of a tyrant. He became a living legend of the savannah, known not only for his different appearance, but for his rare compassion. People often saw Keto protecting lost cubs or old, weak members abandoned by their prides. He turned his pride into a sanctuary for the imperfect. Keto understood that the true strength of a king lies not in eliminating the weak, but in creating a space where every difference is cherished. The story of Keto and Aisha is a testament to a simple but profound truth. Love does not need similarity in blood or skin color. It only needs empathy between souls that have suffered hurt. If this story has touched your heart, please press the like button to help this message of compassion spread further. Have you ever met an Aisha in your life? Someone who believed in you when the whole world turned its back? Share your story in the comments section. I would love to hear it. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next inspiring journeys from the natural world. Remember, you are not alone because you are different. You are just waiting for someone kind enough to see the true beauty inside you.